Attention, lockdown, lockdown, lock the doors, stay away from the windows.
This takes place on my last year of high school when I was 16 years old. Me and my friend were goofing off because it was literally the last week of term, so it's not like we were doing any work anyway. Then I realised that I got a text message from my friend. I'm going to name him Jack for the sake of this story. And he said our school went into a lockdown. Me and my other friend called Bob was terrified. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know what to do if we were just outside the school. So we made the decision to go back inside. Even though we didn't want to, but I felt like that would save us from getting in trouble. So we went back inside. The school was completely dead, just like we expected. But we tried to get into a classroom, but all the classroom doors were locked. And there was no staff on the hallways like there usually would be. And then we noticed something on the other end of the hallway. We couldn't tell what we saw at first. Then we realised what it was. It was someone standing there, as if they were waiting for us. But we couldn't tell if it was a man or a woman. The school was that dark and he was too far away from us to see. But then we noticed him getting closer to us. Me and Jack were starting to get paralysed with fear now. We couldn't move. But we realised when he got closer, it was a guy wearing a black mask and a black hoodie. Then we finally snapped out of our trance and we ran for it. Me and Jack split up. I don't know where he went, but I went to the music hallway because that was the only thing I can think of. Because there's not really that many hiding spaces in our school, so I decided to head there. I don't know if the guy was following me or not, but I didn't really want to know. I just ducked down behind a desk, hoping that he wouldn't come in. But then I heard footsteps coming from outside the door, and I realised what it could be. There's only one thing it could be. It was the guy, but he didn't come in like I would have thought he would. All he did was just walk into the classroom, then turn around, then disappeared, never to be seen by me again. Then I waited a little bit, because I wasn't sure if it was safe enough to go outside yet. Then I got a text from Jack saying I was outside in the car. That was a smart idea from him, but I needed to wait because I didn't know if the guy was outside. After what felt like half an hour, I finally built up the courage to run outside and got back to the car in no time at all. Just like I expected, Jack was there. And so was the police. Me and Jack just watched the whole thing from his car. But unfortunately, they didn't find the guy in the school, or anywhere for that matter. They never found him. And that still kills me to this day. But a few days later, I looked on the news and they had a wanted poster of the guy that was in our school, and the news said he is charged for murder. Then I threw up right there and then. That still scares me to this day that me and my best friend Jack came across a real life murderer. Recently I started teaching at the high school that I went to many years ago. The teachers for some reason still loved me, so they gave me the job. I was happy about it. I actually saw most of the staff as actual real friends instead of work colleagues or teacher figures. But anyway, I'm a history teacher and I was teaching about World War I. Then I heard the dean's voice come on the speaker saying that we'll be going into a lockdown. Usually when this happens, it's always been a drill, so we turn off the lights, lock the door and head into the corner of the room. But I knew something was off. Usually they would tell us if there was a drill coming up, but they never did. That got me a bit concerned, but I wasn't going to scare the kids, so I kept my cool. But suddenly, I heard footsteps running across the halls, running backwards and forwards over and over again. I didn't know who it was. I didn't think it was one of the staff, because most of them are quite old and honestly just don't run that quick anymore. So, again, this got me a bit concerned, but I wasn't going to scare the kids. But then I kept hearing screaming coming from a few doors down. It wasn't any of the staff members, that's all I know. But whatever it was, this wasn't a drill. Then, not long after, he came knocking on our door, screaming that deranged scream I heard earlier. And the kids started screaming louder and louder now. He knew we were in there, and he tried to open the door, but obviously the door was locked, and then he kept trying to smash the window and tried to pick the lock. There's only one thing I could do at the time, and I still would kind of regret this to this day because it was hurting another human being, but I had to do something. I got a pair of scissors from my desk and stabbed him. He let out the most deranged scream I've ever heard. He was screaming in agony, trying to get the scissors out of his hand, but not long after he finally ran off. After sitting for about half an hour with a broken window kind of exposed, the dean's voice came on the speaker saying we're allowed to go home early. I was glad about that. But the police checked the CCTV footage when they got here, but they never found him. The footage was just too dark to identify his face, and that still kills me to this day. As my first job, I was a teaching assistant at a school. I can't remember what the school was now, but that's not really important to the story. I was covering a science lesson for one student who was struggling in most of his classes, so that's why he needed me there. But the teacher told me about half an hour into the lesson that he needed some books from the science cupboard, so I decided to go get them for him so he can continue teaching the class. Not long after though, I heard the dean's voice saying there was a lockdown, and I tried to go back, but the door was locked, obviously, so I didn't know what to do. So I decided to hide in the science cupboard for now. What made it more scary was I didn't know what I was running from until I saw him. At the end of the hallway, I saw a black figure. To what I could see, he was holding a weapon. I didn't know what weapon he was holding, but I didn't want to know. I quickly pegged it out of there as quick as I could. I didn't even know where I was running to, but I just wanted to be anywhere but the school, so I ran out and got in my car and drove home. But what made it more terrifying was I looked on the news and it was all over the news. The guy was never found. That still hurts me to this day because I saw him. When I eventually went back to work, I found out that the guy was being done for attempted murder. I nearly fainted when they said that because I was stood face to face from him and he chased me as well with a weapon. So I could have been one of this guy's victims as well. If he even had any victims, I have no idea. But I was started seeing a therapist to get over this incident, but it's been easier said than done. He's been prescribing me medications and giving me sleeping pills because I've had trouble sleeping at night. But I know this will pass, but I couldn't imagine how the students were feeling during this time, and I just hope that nobody has to go through fear like this. Fearing for your life this much is something that I hope nobody else has to go through.